Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. I made a very simple tutorial for you guys to actually start programming and working on your Arduino project. I hope that you have the ramp ready and you're ready to program. So for this project you will need two files basically. One is the Arduino IDE, or the interface where you program, and the code, the source code that you are going to have ready, which you will modify to work differently for each team. Okay, so you can find the two files to download below this video, okay, on the comment section. Those are the two files. So as soon as you have the two files, there's one that's going to be called Arduino, and it's also a zip file. And this zip file, you're going to have to decompress that zip file so you can see the files that are in it. Okay, so you'll have something like this, and you'll have a program called Arduino. There's no need for installation. This is a standalone program. So you just double click on Arduino, and you will see the window popping up, and you will while you're downloading the other file. Okay, so here we have the window for the IDE. This is called an interface, or a development interface. Okay, what you need next is to download the Velocity Exp, okay, file. It's also a zip file, so you want to also decompress this file. Okay, and after you unzip this file, you're going to open it from the console. Click on File, Open, and choose inside that folder called Velocity Exp. Choose the source code. Okay, click on Open, and you will see the source code which manages your programming. Okay, so it is very simple. For now, we are not going to worry about the very first part of the code, which is basically a library that we are going to use as the countdown or the stopwatch. Okay, it's a library that's already created by somebody which counts up or down. Okay, we are just going to worry about the calculations and computations that you need to do for your class. Okay, this very first part is setting up the variables, setting up the sensors, how are the sensors going to work. If you are interested in programming sensors and programming and learning how they work with Arduino, there are tons of tutorials on the internet that explain each line of code. Okay, so basically you have all this. You reach something called the setup, which is a block of code. And in this block of code, we basically set up the timer at 0, 0, 0, 0 seconds, 0 milliseconds, and 0 microseconds. Okay, and we actually start the timer at that point. Okay, we also make sure that the sensors are low, both of them. Like the ping is low, which it uses ultrasound, so you want to know that the ping is low. And I print out a line, like we print out a line on the terminal window which says program started. Okay, so this is the setup part, and this is the most important part you want to look at, which is the block called void loop. Okay, which is going to be a loop that is going to happen while the Arduino is on. Okay, the Arduino manages two different blocks: the setup block called void setup and the loop block called void loop. Now in void loop you will have infinite number of times that the loop is going to happen. Okay, so it's kind of like a true loop. Okay, so basically what it's doing is that this part is actually reading the first sensor and waiting for the car to pass. Okay, this would be the very first part, that's reading the first sensor. This is a small time, so the sensor doesn't get more than one value when the car passes. Okay, and so it's kind of like a delay, so we give it a delay. Then we have the start value, so start in start, which is 100. We set it up to 100, so the start value is 100. Okay, and this start value, has to do very much with the distance measured from the sensor. So I make the sensor starting 100, and that is because I don't want it to go inside the conditional statement before the program or the car actually passes. So I start the variable with the starting variable, then we read it from the sensor, then we actually make this real value, okay, and take it to the start value, which is the reading. Okay, now here's a conditional statement, and the conditional statement says that if the distance of the sensor is less than 8, it is because the car has passed. Okay, so that's basically what's happening. As soon as this happens, then there's a message to the terminal window saying capturing. Okay, you don't want to modify this, which is if you modify this, you kind of get a different distance. If your ramp is really far away from the car, from measuring the car, or the sensor is really far away from the car, then you would need to increase this value. Okay, but for now, and try not to change this value. Okay, so it says capturing. You can test it out with your hand first. You can test it with your hand and then make sure it actually works. So it says as soon as the console says capturing is because the sensor caught the first value. Okay, then there's a counter. Okay, there's going to be a counter that is going to start adding up. Okay, every time that it says capturing, it's because I want to know how many times you're trying the different tries. Okay, so every time that you do it once, twice, it's going to count, so you know which is your try. Okay, as soon as this happens, I create a subprogram, and this is called a subprogram that counts the time or counts the time between sensors. Okay, so as soon as he goes over here, it will go to a subprogram. As you can see, the block of code is right over here called count time. Okay, and the count time just waits. Okay, waits and reads, waits for the other sensor to activate. Okay, and counts the time between. Okay, so that's what it's doing. He's reading, and actually counting. When that happens, then I display, or you're going to display the different variables. Okay, it's going to say attempt, and it's going to say first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. Then it's going to show the variable count, which is first, second, third, fourth. Then from the library that I told you at the beginning of the video, these are the functions which show the hours, the minutes, and the seconds of each try. Okay, so it's going to show hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, and microseconds. Okay, so it shows that accuracy. So it's going to show that. So in other words, what you're doing is that you're showing the amount of hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, and microseconds. Okay, so you're printing this. You can also save this number and the minutes and the seconds and the milliseconds and the microseconds into a variable, which you're going to need because velocity is basically distance over time. Okay, a distance in a time. So you're going to have the distance, which is fixed, the distance of your model, and you're going to have a time. So you want to show also the speed here. Okay? So in order to create a variable, and this is what I'm going to show you how to create one variable, and basically you will do the others. Okay? So after you display this, you want to create a variable. You can create an integer variable because hours is going to be an integer, minutes is going to be an integer, seconds is going to be an integer, milliseconds an integer, and so on and so forth. So I want to create int minutes. I want to create a variable called minutes. Okay? And this variable is just going to have the number of minutes. Okay? Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same with the 4 different variables. So we're going to type minutes, seconds, milliseconds, and microseconds. Okay? So it is up to you. It is up to you to find the final variable. How do you find the final variable? You're going to create another variable, but in this case it's going to be a double, because doubles are decimal numbers, and you're going to need a decimal number for the velocity. So you're going to click double, and you're going to write speed. Okay, and basically you will write down the formula, which will be the distance. Okay, which the distance also needs to be a double, and here you will type in the distance. Okay, this may vary. You need to measure the distance first. Let's say I'm going to have 0.3 meters, okay? 0.3 meters is going to be the distance, and the speed will be basically the division of the distance over the time, okay? Now, the time, it's in millisecond, milliseconds, and microseconds. You are going to need to find out the decimal number and the conversion from minutes, seconds, and milliseconds to, or you can use minutes and seconds or into a decimal number. Okay, for example, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. You will actually have to divide by 1.5. Or you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You will need to divide 2.5. Okay, so that's pretty much what I'm saying. And you can do the same thing with the milliseconds and the microseconds. Okay, so it is important that you find out yourself what it is, and then it's just basically saying the distance over. Okay, another thing you can do before is create another variable, which is going to call timing, or whatever, call it timing. And this timing is going to be what I just said, okay? The conversion factor. Let's say it took 2.3, or it's the formula, okay, that you're going to find out. Here you have to write down the formula, either minutes and seconds, dividing, multiplying. Here's where the computations work, okay? Then at the end, so this is up to you for the student to write the code, okay? For the student to measure and write it and type the number in meters, okay? And of course the speed is going to be the distance divided timing. So that's basically it. At the end, you want to show, after you do this, you want to show serial.println, and you want to show the speed. So we're going to say speed, okay, speed, okay, and we want to write the speed, okay? The variable. So this is pretty much it for the modifications that you want to do in order to see the speed. For now, you're just looking at the time that it's taking for the car to go between the sensors, okay? And with that time, which is the most important thing, with that time you can find the speed. Okay, so this is a way to create an odometer, okay? Okay, after you're done, you need to make sure that there's an expression here and that there's an expression over here, okay? Otherwise, it will not compile. How do you know that it's not compiling? First, you need to click on the check mark, okay? And it says, look, there is a primary expression before the double. This is because for the timing, I don't have a number, okay? Remember that this is the calculation that you're going to get using minutes, seconds, milliseconds, and microseconds. This is the computation that you're going to get, okay? So let's say the timing is 2.5, okay? Now it will be able to compile, okay? It's compiling the sketch. After it's compiling and it says done compiling, you are sure that your program works perfectly, okay? Now the only thing we need is to put it onto the Arduino board, okay? So for that, we're going to connect the Arduino using a USB cable, okay? Connect the Arduino using a USB cable to your computer, and on the bottom part, you're going to see the installation, okay? It's a small icon that says that it's installing, okay? It's going to take some time to install, okay? And after it finishes installing that, you're going to go to Tools, go to Board, and make sure that it's the Arduino Uno. You're going to go to Port, and make sure that your port, it says Arduino Uno on port. Right now on my computer I have two Arduinos connected. You will only have one COM Arduino, okay? So you're going to select that COM. And after you select that COM, you are going to click on Upload, okay? After you click on Upload, it's going to start downloading the program to your interface, to your Arduino, okay? When that happens, you're going to open, after you finish, okay, you're going to set up everything. You're going to leave your Arduino connected to the board. You're going to go to Tools, and you're going to select Serial Monitor, okay? In Serial Monitor, you will see everything for the car, okay? So right now, I don't have it on my computer, but you will see the interface. It's going to say program started, then it's going to say when it passes the first sensor, capturing. When it passes the second sensor, it's going to show everything, including the speed, okay? So that's basically it, what you need to do in order to program this project, okay? You will learn a lot more about Arduino and different projects in the future, but for now, try playing around with this part of the program, okay? If you have any questions, you can come up to my classroom and we will figure out what's wrong, okay?